Is Rajinikanth a good actor? I don't know. South makes equal number of flops. Unknown Prabhas can become such a big hit. Most of the South directors, if you said, I'm not going to name names, that they can't even speak English. North audience will puke on this guy's face. It's like a very famous director. I was chatting with him on the phone. He said Ramu tried to see KGF 2. After 15 minutes, I couldn't take it. And they took a breathing session in the balcony, and he did some kind of pranayama or whatever. He came back and saw another 15 minutes. And now he took a shower. He hated the film. Like I remember Amitabh Bachchan in some film, I can't recall, plays a scene where he's got a stomachache or something. I used to hate that scene when Sanjay Dutt was arrested in the 93 glass case. I was making a film called Nayak at that time. In between he got arrested. Nayak was shelved. So Nayak was actually Sarkar. Yeah. Pseudo-intellectuals which are coming in, they are the guys who are responsible for Hindi industry, not like Sadashiv. You know,
what an actor.
I thought fantastic. I cast him in company. He was so bad. He is one of the very few people in my entire career who were replaced with another actor after shooting. Then I met Mr. Ramoji Rao. He said, like in your job as a columnist, film director, what do you mean? You have? I said, sir, no, film director doesn't need train because it is nothing to do with training. It's not manual, it's not a skill. But he didn't buy it. And then he told my father, I've never met anyone in the film industry who seems to know more about films than your son. The way your son describes a scene, the most senior directors in the industry with 20 years experience can't tell you with that clarity.
Your first heartbreak?
Heartbreak?
When you say the word gangster, how do you define a gangster? He's somebody who's disruptive, somebody who follows his own rules, most importantly doesn't follow the rules that is made by the society, rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and somebody who might be liked by few, disliked by a lot. But having said all of it, he's somebody that you can very easily say, love him, hate him, but you can't ignore him. We've done interviews of a lot of directors on cult creators, but this time we are not just getting a director, but we are getting a gangster director. Somebody who doesn't like to be praised a lot, but you can't take away the contribution that he's done to the Indian cinema. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Mr. Ram Gopal Varma. Thank you for coming, sir. We've been talking offhand a lot, but I really wanted to get some of our conversations on camera. Of course, a lot of that can't come on camera. But thank you so much for doing this. So the idea is very simple. Every time a film releases, there are interviews and people talk to the director.
Yeah.
And the basic questions are, actor ke saath kaam karke kaisa laga?
Yeah.
There are very few places where we have seen that we talk about the director. We've created this show, Cult Creators, only for that, where we are not going to talk about just your films, just the people you worked with, but you. So my absolute first question to start off with, we want to start off from where you started off. Where were you born? How was the family atmosphere? Were films a part of it? How did that, in that dark room, that ray of films came, touched you, and you felt like this is it? Or I'm just fantasizing it, nothing of this happened. So over to you, sir.
Yeah. See, I would rather talk, your first question, where you born. I think I would rather talk about how I got born as a director.
Sure.
You know? See, my first memory of hearing the word director is when my uncle, like my mother's brother, he took me to see a film called Ankur of Shyam Benir.
Oh, wow.
You know? That would be roughly when I was maybe 10, 12, I don't remember exactly. And he said in the end of the film, there is something happens, like a boy throws a stone and the window breaks, you know. And he kind of leaned towards me and said, that's a director's touch, he said. That's the first time I heard that word, consciously at least, you know. So that kind of put something in me that what is a director's touch mean? Because this is a way someone wants to make a point, probably the most simplistic, yeah. So post that, he was like crazy about films and he always wanted a company to see a film. And in spite of our age difference, he had this tendency to all the time to take me and all kinds of films, whether it's James Bond or it is for a few more dollars of the westerns,
Oh, wow.
and including N.T. Ramarao films at that time.
Which
there
city was this, sir?
Hyderabad, yeah.
This was Hyderabad and single screen theaters. That's how
Yeah,
it
of
used
course,
to be.
of course,
And
yeah.
those films used to be dubbed, or you used to get the.
I mean, no, there's no dubbing at that time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it used to be in
Telugu,
English.
Hindi
though.
and English, yeah.
Lovely, lovely. So
And
Ankur was the first film you
then
saw in the
I
cinema.
don't know. I don't think it's the first film. I heard the word director.
Very interesting.
Because before that, I didn't know. I thought films get made. How
Correct.
will I know how films get? I have no idea.
True.
And then I remember I used to, when I go to see a James Bond film, for example, at that age, and I don't know what James Bond is. I don't know if it's a character's name. So whichever character comes into the film, as a film was watching, I used to ask my uncle, yeah, this guy is also James Bond? This guy is also in Telugu. And then, but slowly, because after repeatedly watching so many films with him, I started getting addicted. I was losing interest in my studies, and my mom was very, very upset about, and she thought my uncle was spoiling me, and blah, blah, whatever happened. And slowly, by the time I grew up, and I started realizing the difference in fields of how the films are shot. So then also my uncle said it's because different directors make it differently. That is the reason why they're like in one film the fights seem like this, another film something else happens. So then slowly I started realizing what is the individualistic directors, what they do. And then I started developing some favorites among directors. Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. But in your house, when you used to go back home, there were no conversations of films, or were they considered to be something that's, you've in a way answered that, but they were considered as something that's not for kids and should not be watched, or the focus should be on studies?
No, see, I don't think it was about certain kind of films. I don't ever remember anybody in my family or friends kind of diversifying the subject matters like violence or this is horror, nothing like that. Films were films, But my mom was very concerned, and she felt watching too many films can come in the way of your studies. That's what. So then I started lying and things, but yeah.
Okay, very interesting. We'll pause at the lying bit. Would you remember the first film you saw in theatre, sir? Like the first experience of watching a film in theatre, the light went off, it was a dark room, and you saw this big image. Would you remember which was that?
I think it was, if I'm incorrect, it could have been also a rerun or something like that. A Clint Eastwood film. Like this, for a few more dollars or something like that, yeah.
That is your faintest memory of watching.
Yeah.
Wow. And it must be, you would be about 5.
I'm not sure what it was.
And your age would be around?
At that time?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I might have seen something before also as an infant.
But this is your
my
memory that you
conscious
said.
memory of it was probably I must be 7, 8 or 10 or something like that. Yeah.
So because I know we have few common associates and friends, Shiva was the journey where it all started as a director. But from that boy with his uncle watching a film to directing on set of Shiva, it's a long journey. So, and the idea to do this is to tell people who are in smaller towns, aiming to do something technically in the business. A lot of them feel that if you don't have connects, if you don't know somebody, it's very difficult to break through. Obviously, times were different then, times are different now. But I would rather want to know on that journey from the boy who was watching a film to the set of Shiva. How did that happen, sir? Like, how did you break into the industry, assisted somebody? How was that journey, sir?
See, basically when, I mean, almost till intermediate thing, I wasn't really consciously talking about how films are made by a director. But I used to be a voracious reader of fiction. I almost completed the entire set of James Hadlich's book by 10th standard or something. In my intermediate, I finished writing Godfather. Novel. I'm talking about the novel,
Yeah.
And then, of course, my film obsession of watching them was continuing. That didn't stop at all. In my BTech engineering, engineering first year, I suddenly started developing this habit of narrating a story of a film I saw.
True.
And I used to change it. I used to change what I saw when I'm narrating, because that's what I thought should have happened, should have been made. And I also had this habit of telling it in shots. It's not like
Describing the scene.
describing the scene in shots. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
But you never realized it came naturally.
It came naturally to me. Yeah.
Correct.
And then at one point of time, like my friends were so impressed with my narration, and they used to go see the film, and they
must
come
be
back and say,
disappointed.
it is nowhere near your narration, And then maybe that was a sparking thought for me, but even then I was not conscious. Then somewhere in my third year engineering, one of my friends, we all used to, they used to share rooms in college time, He said, if ever I make money, I will make a film with Ram Gopal. They used to call me Ram Gopal, And that was the first time I didn't think of that time. Him saying that, he thought, what do you mean? I said, but yeah, no one knows cinema better than you. I don't know anyone who knows films better than you.
Wow.
Because the way you narrate, I find it more effective than when I see the film. I think that was the conscious someone putting a seed into my mind.
Maybe
and from
voicing
then,
it out.
Yeah.
Nah.
From then, it became an obsession for me to wanting to. And the first ever scene I conceived was the opening sequence of Rath, the horror film. Yeah. Like a bus coming and stopping and
Right.
I used to narrate it in that detail of in fact, the location where I used to be, I used to narrate in that location where the bus will stop and the camera movement and all that.
Spooky.
And guess what? Finally, when I got to make Rath, I went and shot the scene there only.
Wow. Wow. Spooky.
It's a place called
Destiny and
Topu in Vijayawada. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So from college, sir, when you decided, okay, somebody seeded a thought in your head, what was your first step? How did you pursue? Because direction, I'm sure, is like a ladder.
Yeah,
you
I
start
know.
off as somebody, assist somebody, either edit.
Yeah.
Or so what was that journey like?
See,
sir?
one thing which happened is like my father was a sound engineer who works in Annapurna Studios.
Acha.
And once in a while, people used to come to meet my father, related to films like a cameraman or maybe a director or someone like that. But I never took part in conversations, but I used to hear them talk, And at a certain time, I started believing that I think I'm far more smarter than these guys. And I'm smarter not in terms of a general level, but about knowing about films.
Yeah.
I felt the way they talk about films seems to be disrespectful and a very ignorant way, including that of my father. And that made my obsession even more stronger. Then by the end of my engineering, when I was maybe around 24, 23, and one day I went and told my father, I want to be a director. I still remember he was shaving and he just ignored what I said as if he didn't hear it.
So
I
no
left.
response.
No response. Then I left and then my mom told me in the night, I believe you said this, and he said he said something like, I think he's become a crack master or something, And it's with good reason, because I wasn't a good student. I was doing all kinds of things. And he thought it's some stupid whim, suddenly coming and saying, I want to be a director.
And not a sound engineer, not a DOP, not a technician. I want to be a director.
Yeah. And also I was doing engineering. That's the whole point,
Correct.
But then he was working in Annapurna Studios, so he obviously has access to the people. So then I asked him one day to get me an appointment with Venkat, who's Nagarjuna's brother, the producer.
Yeah.
So apparently he went into, Venkat told me much later, He said, just bear with him for 10-15 minutes, because I can't say no to him, he being my son, for my sake. And then, So Venkat said, okay. And that 10-15 minutes became 4-5 hours. My first meeting with Venkat. And he genuinely had an interest in what I was telling. and I was kind of dissecting the films Annapurna Studios made.
Oh.
I was talking about Rambo. I was talking about the Guns of Navarone. So he was fascinated with me. And then he told my father, I've never met anyone in the film industry who seems to know more about films than your son. So my father got shocked because I never talked to my father about films.
True. I connect to that.
Yeah.
Which year was this, sir? Approximately?
This was roughly, I would think, 1987 or something. And then, but at that time it was unheard of that a guy who never had experience or something to be given a break by a big studio like Annapurna Studios, And then in the course of that, obviously I was doing, by the time I started doing a job, and I was being paid some 800 rupees as a site engineer.
If I may ask what the job was?
It was site engineer in the construction of Taj Krishna Hotel in Hyderabad.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I worked on
so you've
that
laid the
construction.
stones of, in a way, been there. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is where I first wrote my, Rath story, actually.
So when you met Venkat Garu, there was no story in mind. You just met for a discussion and a chat.
No, I said I wanted to be a director. So he heard and all that, but no one's going to take it.
Correct.
I was also busy. I had to make a living and all this. I won't get the time again and again. And meanwhile, because the money was so less, like 800 rupees, you can't make a living. By the time I also got married. And then my wife's father got me a job in Nigeria, which was paying some 4,000. 800
From
to
800 to
4,000 is obviously a very big jump, So they're forcing me to go there. So by that time, I already, because of Venkat,
Right.
And all this, I started trying to meet Suresh Babu, I met Suresh Babu and I narrated the opening sequence of Rath,
Just
he
the opening
was
sequence.
kind of impressed, but he also couldn't make out what to do about that. Because no one knew that a guy can just come and direct a film.
Without any experience of being on set.
Then I met Mr. Ramoji Rao of Inadu and RFC,
Yes.
Film City. And to meet him, I wrote one article because I didn't have access to him. And he had a newspaper called News Time at that time.
Okay.
My article was published. It was called The Ideas That Killed 30 Million People. So that's about the influence of the philosopher Nietzsche on Hitler and the Nazi party. So the title was very attractive, The Ideas That Killed. So then I managed to get an appointment with him. And there also the same thing. He said, I can give you, because you wrote an article, I can give you a job as a columnist. But film director, what do you mean? You have to learn, you have to train.
Sure.
I said, sir, no, film director doesn't need train because he is supposed to communicate to the technicians and the actors what he wants. It is nothing to do with training. It's not manual. It's not a skill.
Storytelling.
Yeah, correct. But he didn't buy it. And meanwhile, I suddenly, of this 4,000 job offer I got. So I almost was giving up because no one was really taking it forward, And that's when one of my, because I was going to Nigeria, one of the requirements was international driving license, as a document at that time. So he was taking me and he stopped at one video library, They were just cropping up at that time, VHS video cassettes, And the first time I saw a video library, I was zapped to see the cassettes.
That was the first time you saw?
That was the first time I saw a video library, And then it was like a treasure trove for me to see so many films. Then a thought occurred to me, what if we start a video library? And I was supposed to go to Nigeria in weeks' time. And overnight I dropped the idea. And I started looking at other video libraries and I managed to raise through loans and this and that about 20,000 rupees as an initial investment. And there was some shop which my father had was given to him by some relative because my father also was on the verge of retirement. And he wanted to start some juice store or something, apple juice or something.
Oh, he had a retirement plan.
Yeah. So I asked him for that shop, And obviously he knows I'm a good for nothing bum. He basically decided on that. So I said, you just give it to me for 2 months. If it doesn't work, you can always do what you want. And then the video library became a huge success.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the reason? Was it location
No,
or was
there were
it?
two things. You see, I feel the customers used to like me tremendously because in the way I used to push the films,
Recommend
I know
them
the
according
story
to
of
their taste.
every film and I understand the taste of the particular customer. So they were so much taken in by me. And in fact, sometimes when I was not in the store, they refused to take unless I come in and tell them.
The reason I asked this, sir,
Yeah.
when I was a kid and video libraries used to, like when they say kid in a candy store, for me that was the candy
Correct,
store.
correct.
Because that time VCDs had come in and there used to be these small packing posters. So it was a wall full of posters.
Correct. Same.
For me, it was like, that is it. And I'm
I
not
know, I
joking.
know.
I've gone back and told my dad, my retirement plan is eventually to have a video library. We never knew where things are going to go.
Yeah,
and
correct.
just be there amongst all those posters. So I exactly know what you did. That's why I asked, how did it work? Because it's all about how you recommend according to the taste of what they want to see. If they've seen this film before and everything. I still
Now,
somewhere feel.
yeah, because of the video library, I started getting a lot of film industry contacts. They used to come to pick up the cassettes. Then I started making a lot of contacts in the industry, out of which one man was a man called Surendra, who was Nagarjuna's brother-in-law.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Oh, so nothing happened at the Annapurna meeting at that point in
No,
time. All
I mean,
of
they
this
liked
went
it
in.
and all that. I was also not very clear. I just told the opening sequence. I wanted to do work. And then, but all this was happening in a very small period of time.
So video library was for a few years? No.
No.
Oh.
Video library, maybe 6-8 months. It all happened around the same time. All this was parallelly happening, And then when Surendra used to ask me, I'm making some films, and can you recommend anything which is on those lines and things like that. So then we developed a certain bond. And then he spoke very highly about me to Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna also knows my father because I'm an employee in the studio.
Yeah.
And then I started meeting them frequently, like Venkat, Nagarjuna and all of them. And they all used to get very impressed with me. Because they never saw a guy who tells something in shots.
Yeah.
In fact, once one cameraman told my father, the way your son describes a scene, the most senior directors in the industry with 20 years experience can't tell with that clarity. So my father also slowly started getting intrigued with me.
There is something. It's just not good for nothing somewhere.
Then at one point of time, because my video library was doing very well, I was earning a lot of money. So I had that security for the sake of the family. And then I decided to just be full-time in films. And then I started hanging out with them in the studio all the time. And over a period of time, it just broke and they kept on developing their confidence in me.
But never did you assist anyone?
No.
Wow.
I mean, I tried to, but I was very bad assistant director.
Because you would feel, what is he doing? This needs to be done this way.
I used to lose the clapboard. I used to lose the continuity book. And in fact, the associate director told, don't give any work to Ramu. He's just like, for some reason, the producers have taken a fancy to him. Let him be there. So don't entrust any work with him, they said.
Basically, these are all formalities that you feel like it's not necessary. The point is the camera and the film and the story. Everything else around. So I'm sure that is what was the focus. Very, very interesting. So I mean, really interesting and very different. Something I didn't expect coming. You've already answered your first salary. Do you remember your first mentor, so to say, that you can say in the industry for what you've been, that there was somebody that you can look up and say, he's somebody who I looked up to or I learned a lot even from watching at a distance, if there is anybody?
See, I definitely learned from films, not from any one particular director. I mean, in fact, I believe there's one line, I don't remember who said, there are no great directors, there are only great films.
True.
See, because great director doesn't, no one does good films consistently.
True.
I also can have bad films, good films, great films, and horrible films. So I would say films. So the 5 principal films, what I think I've learned from is one, of course, is A Godfather.
Right.
Second is A Mechanised Gold and The Exorcist.
Okay.
And The Sound of Music
Wow.
you know, and some things like that. So there's cult film like The Guns of Navarone, and you know, and of course coming to India, there's Sholay, and then there is Ardha Satya of Govind Hilani, Shyam Benegal's Kalyug, and there's a director in South called Balchandar. Yeah. So I think these films are which kind of were stepping stones for my growth.
Sir, I get all the 5 films that you mentioned because it somewhere shows in your film trajectory also. But when you talk about Ardha Satya, when you talk about Kalyug, you never wanted to make a film like that. You wanted to attempt a film like that.
I mean, I think I made it also. See, the point is, if you take my debut film,
Ji.
there was lot of scenes in Shiva which were taken from Ardha Satya, including the ambience of Ardha Satya. When first time they go to meet Rama Shetty, the way they're sitting and having cards, actually copied many of such stuff.
But obviously it was packaged in a more commercial manner lens. So
you can say that. My whole point was like I'm picking up pieces here and there and churning them in my own way or whatever,
Very interesting. Your first friend, it could be from childhood or somebody who's been you
like
remember.
To carry forward your question, now Sound of Music is what which happened to be Rangila.
True.
Exorcist came in Booth.
True. So that's what Exorcist and
Sarkar,
Godfather,
of course.
Sound of Music, Rangila. That makes a lot of sense. Visuals also, it all comes because you said you describe scenes in shots. So if you're talking about Rangila, visuals also, you are very clear in your head that we would need that beach, we would need those kind of costumes, or that comes across when you sit with the HODs, they come up with ideas. How is the general process?
In both ways. Sometimes I can have a reference point it could be from a film or a novel or something someone told me, and sometimes it can come in the course of the discussion with anyone. Yeah.
My next thing was your first friend, if you remember. So whether it's a childhood friend or someone from the industry who's been there, but you kind of remember this was one strong friendship I had, which could be before you joined into films or after.
I think I never had a friend. I don't have a friend till now. Because I'm pretty much, I'm only interested in people who are intelligent, to have a conversation, to listen to their experiences, and I get fascinated by that. Rather than, I never have an emotional bond.
So I know that about you today. I was hoping there would be something when you were like in the childhood, it was always like this.
It was always like that, yeah.
Very interesting. The first ever script. So the section is called first. That's why I'm asking all the first. The first ever script you ever held, not of yours, but anywhere in a studio, the first script that you go through and realize this is how a script is.
Yeah. I first actually held an old film censor copy. That's when I first saw, actually.
Okay.
Because to submit your thing, you need to submit a script. Yeah. And of random things, because Annapurna Studios continuously is making films, they had a lot of these censor copy scripts.
Correct.
But that I just saw. I practically didn't read it, the thing, what was inside.
But that is when you first saw, that's how a script feels or looks like.
Correct. And then, technically, the first script I'm making this film called Collector Ga Rabai, that was made again in Hindi called Kanoon Apna Apna with Dilip Kumar and Sanjay Dutt. Yeah, B. Gopal was the director. That was the first script I actually sat and read. Yeah, it was written by some writer. And I found the dialogue very, very, cheesy. Cheesy. But that was almost my first introduction.
That was your first introduction to the scripts.
But when the shooting started, I realized that was the right dialogue, because in the way I imagined the characters and how the actors would say it is very different from the way they were shooting. So it was in sync there. Yeah.
Wow. Would you remember your first ever negative review?
That was for this film called Shanak Shanam. It came immediately after Shiva with Sridevi and Venkatesh. And for some reason, it failed at the time it released, and then later it became a cult film. So today I'm more known for Shanak Shanam more
than Shiva.
Yeah.
And what was the review like?
The review was like, like a one film wonder, something to that extent.
Because of Shiva.
He just got lucky with that. And this is the real Ram Gopal, yeah.
Interesting. Your first heartbreak, whether it was school, college.
Heartbreak, I don't know, because see, I was in love with a girl and she was loving someone else, and I didn't feel anything
But you knew
because
she was.
yeah, I know she was loving someone else, and loosely that's where Rangila came from. Because see, like Amir is
Yeah.
not jealous. Amir is
Yeah.
not negative
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Because genuinely feels she deserves someone better than him. So I think that partly has come from my
Wow.
own my own story. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the next segment, sir. It's called your favorite. You've kind of answered it, but your favorite one film, if you have to pick, all-time favorite one film.
I would definitely think The Godfather.
Favorite book, if there is one. that you can
Favorite
pick.
book for me is The Devil's Alternative by Frederick Forsyth. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite shoot location?
Favorite?
Shoot location.
Shoot location? No, not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Mumbai is something that really intrigues you, sir, or used to during Satya and
See,
company?
Mumbai always intrigued me. I mean, especially when I was making Rangila, because Rangila was the first film I shot. So actually stayed in Bombay for the first time was in Rangila. I came to Rangila the first time when I had to buy video cassettes for my video shop.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
And Rangila was the first time I stayed, and I used to be fascinated with the Matunga,
Yeah.
with the Dharavi slums.
Yes, yes. The narrow lanes
Yeah. And that is what will slowly push me to make Satya.
Satya.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there has to be some inspiration from the city to make a film like
Yeah,
Satya.
yeah,
At least
correct.
visualize a film like
Yeah,
Satya.
yeah.
So Rangila was that.
You
POV.
can't imagine a Satya being made in any city.
Precisely. Mumbai
Yeah.
was a very strong character in that
Correct.
film. You have a favorite actor?
Not really.
Not from here, but
Maybe, see, I could have had, I don't know if I would say actor. I was obsessed with Sridevi. I was obsessed
yes.
with Amitabh Bachchan. But I'm not sure about it's about acting.
acting. It's
about
just
you
maybe the
look up to
persona
them,
and the
larger
screen
than
presence.
life
Correct.
screen presence. Yeah,
correct,
yeah.
correct. Makes sense. Your favorite musician, if there is any?
It was Ilayaraja. Yeah.
And a favorite producer. Would you like you had the best experience working with?
I mean, I never had a producer who I didn't like. No.
That's
But
a rarity, sir. That's great.
But that I think is more to do with my nature of how I deal with people. I mean, I can
true.
get my things done.
True.
Yeah.
I've been a witness to it very
Yeah.
closely. So the next segment basically talks about then and now. You've been in the industry, you've been working on film sets right from a Shiva to now. And I don't remember who told me this, but he said that Ramu cannot spend a single day without the camera. Somebody mentioned it to me like he is not normal if he's not shooting. So you're one of those few people who loves to shoot, tell stories. In this entire span of 35, 36 years and over 50 films, a lot has changed or evolved. Right from the audiences to the filmmakers to the stories that are being told. And obviously that's a discussion we will have. So in then versus now, do you think what's that one thing you see a change in the actors which were then to the actors which are now? Do you see a major shift?
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think both existed at any given time. Actors were eventually human beings. All human beings will have different IQ levels, different levels of talent, and different approaches. I would think. See, if I look at but strangely and surprisingly, see, when I was watching Ardha Satya, I was so impressed with a guy who played Rama Shetty, Sadashiv Amrapurkar.
Yeah.
You know,
What an actor.
and I thought fantastic. I cast him in company because of that memory of. He was so bad. He is one of the very few people in my entire career who were replaced with another actor after shooting.
That's what I was trying to think.
I have there's a mystery to me. Now, see, the point is, I am also known for extracting good performances. Even if I overestimated him, but how could, I will get acting from anybody.
Yeah. And look at what he did
But I
with
think my memory of him was so strong about what he brings to the table.
Yeah.
I couldn't take it that he's not able to tell a simple line. And,
Was
it's
it the
very
character
surprising.
or was it him or maybe
That's
just
a mystery to me. Because
Wow.
see, I made so many films.
Yeah.
I think
And even
only
him-
time it happened.
And even him, if you see, there was this film called Sadak with Sanju Sir.
Yeah, yeah.
And he played Maharani.
Yeah.
What a fantastic...
I mean, all the films I saw of him, he was brilliant, except for my film. So that's one of the biggest mysteries to me.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Any major change in sets from then? This is the then and now segment.
Incidentally, I also would like to tell what...
please.
See, that maybe it is the character and who you know, do you know who I replace him with? Sadashiv. This Bharat, who played the minister in Company.
Oh.
Bharat Dabolkar?
Bharat Dabolkar. The bald
Yeah,
guy.
bald.
Yeah, Bharat Dabolkar, of course.
He was, Sadashiv was playing that role.
Oh, wow. Difficult to imagine him. Now if you see hindsight, it's difficult to imagine him in that. Very interesting. Sets, sir, any major... So when I say difference between then and now, like even in actors, I'm sure during a Rangila, actors were more maybe cordial. Now this is something we've heard, like we were not there, but we've heard that they were more cordial. There were less of vanities, less of artists, talent, entourage.
See, that's a function of changing times.
Right,
So when the quality of life keeps increasing, and there could be days when people used to be under the trees in holding umbrellas to wait when there's no vanity vans. But as quality of life increases in every wake of life, why wouldn't it come to the films?
And it's a natural progress.
And then second is, there will be some instincts, like, and I once, like when actors listening to a story, that's a big contradiction there. I remember reading an article some 25 years back about Hollywood. So where the actors deciding the scripts, and the actors don't have writing talent. But then why does the actor do it? Because it is to see the actor, the people are coming.
Correct.
And if they are paid some $10 million, the writer is being paid $200,000. So you'll always listen to the guy who's getting paid more. but there is a certain, this thing in that.
It's still something which is pretty relevant. Correct. And I think it's industry agnostic. It's everywhere.
I know. Yeah. That happened 25 years back also. That doesn't change, Then second thing is, now there's a difference in, I say, acting is about a character.
Right.
Star is about a performance. And there's a lot of difference between the two.
True. Absolutely.
Is Rajinikanth a good actor? I don't know. I don't think Rajinikanth can do a Bhikkhu Matre. If you're talking some...
So true. Correct. We're talking characters and stuff.
Rajinikanth, you want to see him only like that. Without slow motion, I don't know if Rajinikanth can exist. I don't know.
It's very interesting we're having this conversation.
I think if at the time of Charlie Chaplin, if the 24 frames camera was invented, I think he would have never become a star. He works only in 18 frames.
Yeah. So true. So true. No, that's absolutely right, sir. In fact, I was having a discussion with a actor in Hindi, and that's what he was saying, that my star image has become so big that I'm hungry as an actor to try something, but my fans and my audience don't want me to do that.
That's true. That's true because you see, eventually cinema works for various reasons, not for any single reason. You don't mind seeing Rajinikanth walking in slow motion for the half of the film without doing anything.
You've paid money for that.
It is giving you a high. And high doesn't necessarily come from. So when a star does a normal character, actually it can be disappointing.
And we've seen a lot of examples of that.
Like I remember Amitabh Bachchan in some film, I can't recall, he plays a scene where he's got a stomachache or something.
Piku.
No, this is much earlier.
Okay.
I used to hate that scene. I don't want to see Amitabh Bachchan having a stomachache. So you always look at them like demigods. So when demigods can't become characters. Yeah.
So true. One last thing on the actors is just coming to as we are talking. Do you see a difference in the actors' excitement, dedication, and energy to do something good for the film before? Then now actors have become more of, because there are so many people around, there are so many opinions around. Somewhere I have felt where their voice gets lost because there are so many people advising him. There are so many people kind of telling him this is right, this is wrong. But back in the day, were they more involved creatively in a good way and maybe giving it more rather than today?
That difference is there for sure. But the reason for that is not really the kind of people there over there or not here. It's circumstances like there an independent decision taken by very few people in a group, and whoever is dominant will take that call.
Correct.
Here they are kind of, you call it inundated with opinions and experts and professionals, and then the social media of these guys. So when you are bombarded with so much of information, you get insecure. You lose trust in yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it is that function which is making that, rather than them, they are different people and those were different people.
True.
If
It's
they
the
existed
environment.
today,
Correct.
they would exactly go through that. Yeah.
Very interesting. Two things again, then and now. Producers. I very strongly feel that time, and it's for you to answer, that there were producers who were, I would say, risk takers. No more than risk takers. They were somebody who believed in their film, and they would make a film because they feel it's right, and not because there is a OTT, satellite, or a distributor ready to buy that film. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been there. But today it's become more of a function of buying and selling. Okay, this looks good, but if I'm not able to sell it, why should I make it? Do you think, again, it's industry agnostic, do you think that's changed?
See, but that is again is a similar thing. What I'm saying. See, if at the time when there were probably the fewer films getting made, fewer theaters to play, and there would be people with passion and probably belief, because eventually there's a market. The people who are going to come into the theater to buy tickets, then automatically to see what kind of revenue is coming is how they will make the whole thing. Now more and more revenues come like digital X and Y, and that is what they will see. And suddenly one film will set a benchmark of collecting 1,000 crores or something, then no maker will ever think is making a flop. So the 1,000 crore will seem like a safety net. On a good day, we can make 1,000 crores.
True.
So what is a big deal to make a film in 200 crores? Because we still have 800 crore net. So I think there is a greed on one side, and there is a benchmark which has already been proved it can happen. Then it's about the capacity of the person, that he has the money or he can raise the money.
True.
And then the confusion of what to follow.
Confusion is the word.
Every Friday, a random film comes and becomes something. Either it's a flop or a blockbuster.
Correct.
So any film you are making, from the time of the idea till its release, sometimes it will take 2 to 3 years. But what inspired you, what motivated you to make the film, after 1 year that might change the whole thing, because of some other film came and changed the goalpost. So that is the confusion which runs, and which is the reason why most of the time people are unhappy or in the process of making the film.
I remember this. Raju Hirani sir mentioned he was making PK. They had written the script. They were about to go on shoot, and Oh My God released. And Abhijat and Raju sir went and they saw Oh My God, and they're like, now we can't do the climax of PK like this. We need to change it. And then it all changed, and they rewrote it again, and a lot of that happened.
Yeah.
So that's happened.
I'll give one example. See, like a very famous director. He told me, I was chatting with him on the phone. He said, Ramu tried to see KGF 2. After 15 minutes, I couldn't take it. And I took a breathing session in the balcony, and he did some kind of pranayama or whatever. He came back and saw another 15 minutes. And now he took a shower. And then came. He said, I was willing myself. He hated the film. And then he said, I couldn't take it after the interval. Till after that. I said, just leave it. And then, I don't know why it became such a big blockbuster. Just leave it. I want to ignore it. Then 2 days later, he was sitting with his writer. And the writer was telling him something. And the director asked, how can that happen? It's so illogical or something. Yeah, but that's what worked in KGF 2, no? He said. So he said, now there's a whole old Hollywood line. You can argue about the content, you can't argue with success.
Wow.
So if you for some reason didn't like the film, but millions loved it. So now the problem for the director is, does he force himself to do something which he doesn't like? Which means he is discontinued. So you are doing it without conviction, which is even more dangerous. Which happened to me also. It's not like So you can do what you want, but when you are somewhere pushed to a corner to face
Or
things.
fit in.
Face things which you can't have an answer for.
Correct.
So you start losing your own conviction. And sometimes it might work also, you don't know.
It's happened to you where it's worked.
Yeah,
It's where it's
happens.
worked.
Yeah, it happened to me the most in department. You know? Because see, the point when I started it was a very realistic story and everything. But at a point of time, someone said, I won't take names because I can talk about myself. I'm not. I don't want to sound as if I'm blaming someone.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so no, Sanjay Dutt's Agnipath became such a big hit, and his image has changed. Something else happened. Your films work mostly in the multiplexes and cities. We should need to go into the things. And I'm a guy. I'm a very strong person. In spite of that, I got carried away and I started catering to what audience seemed to want. Not that I did only in department, but the maximum I think I did in department. You know, so 1 week before the release, I called him up and said, I could have done in one-fourth the budget, definitely a better film than this. I'm not saying that would have been a hit. It would be definitely better than this.
Better than
film.
this.
Yeah.
Apples to apples.
Yeah.
That brings me to a question I think I can only ask you because I know you are somebody who's very realistic. A lot of people say that it's been a while Ramu sir has given like a big hit. But there are fan clubs and there are people who still swear by the films that you've done. What do you feel? How do you see the brand RGV? Do you see it is the way you wanted it to be? Do you see it getting derailed somewhere? Or you are happy the way it's happening?
To start with, the point is, all this time, I always used to tell, you know, I take every film of mine, what excites me about the film, I do it with the same effort and passion, you know. And now, passion is a very loose word. You can passionately do a bad thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
You can passionately take, cocaine, for example. Does it mean it's good? That's a different matter. My entire thinking changed day before yesterday. Can you believe that? Just day before yesterday, literally on 15th night. You know? Why? Because see, the point is, I saw Satya because it was releasing. You know? I haven't seen the film for 27 years. You know? And now, of course, I know Satya. I made it. In the making process, you always tend to take the shot, aaj shot liya, wo liya, some discussion. Because the film is a series of decisions you're taking over a long period of time. And each of those decisions will be influenced by the factors which are existing at that particular moment. And by the time the film finishes and you see it in the theater, you're more concerned about what others are saying.
True.
You're looking at the reactions of the others and not seeing the film actually, per se. You know, as the guy who's made it. And then, okay, it's passed, it became a blockbuster cult film, so I forgot about it. Now, because of so many years later, when I watched it as an audience for the first time.
Right.
And I was shaken with the impact. And not only me, Anurag Kashyap was with me, Manoj, all us were equally zapped with the film. Can you believe that? You know? Now, I came up with the line. I said, if you followed a simple principle, all of us, ever since Satya, whenever you wanted to make a film, if we saw Satya once again, and ask ourselves one question, is it going to be as good?
Wow.
Is it going to be as effective? I don't think we would have made 80% of the films we made. And how simple. It doesn't apply to me. I remember seeing an interview of Francis Coppola with a very famous guy called Charlie Rose, you know, when Conversation is a film he made after Godfather, you know, and he was talking to Coppola in the promotional interview for that. Do you think it will be as good as Godfather? He said. No, I could see Coppola was taken aback because he never thought about that. He just made a film.
True.
You know, and then he said, films are different. I know films are different. My simple question is, will it be as good as Godfather? I'm not saying make another Godfather.
True.
I as an audience felt an experience in Godfather. Will I feel that in Conversation? He couldn't answer the question. He was squirming in his seat. I understood that now, what was happening when I watched Satya. So immediately after Satya, I made Kaun. You know, we suddenly had an idea. Like Saurabh told me about this one small house and something happens, you know. I got excited and I started. But if I asked a question at that time, by like someone like you or someone, you're starting this thriller, but do you think it'll be as good as Satya?
As Satya.
I'm not sure what I will answer whether I would have done the film. I don't regret. That's a different matter.
True.
You know? So I think that is a wake-up call for everyone in terms of that. So my entire perspective of and it's very long time. It's not like 2 years, 3 years. It's 27 years. I never see. Meanwhile, I might have made some good films, some bad films, some hits and flops and super flops, all that. But when I saw Satya now, I first time understood actually what happened. I'm trying to
and why it is what it
understand it. I saw a tremendous respect on the director's part, which is me, but how much he respected the character's emotions and the subject matter. Yeah.
But you, as a director, even today, would be true to yourself and say you still make the films today with the same conviction you made Satya then, the passion that we are talking about.
I mean, that is what I'm saying. See, I mean, no person remains constant. They'll obviously change because of his experiences, his mindset, and what's happening with him otherwise. And there are so many things. I am not a guy who ever wanted to make a blockbuster film. See, for example, after Shiva, which becomes such a big hit, and Nagarjuna's stardom and all that, I choose to make Raat. I could have made a film with Chiranjeevi, a big star, or maybe a Rajinikanth also.
And that was all possible.
But I was excited to make a horror film with Raat. You know, likewise, I would. I am a filmmaker.
You made Satya after Rangila. I mean, very few would do that.
Correct,
I think Sandeep Wanga sir mentioned that.
Correct.
Very few people. But
so I was always excited about doing a subject which is to my interest or taste.
So that's
and not
exactly
to
what
scale it up.
Correct. But that's exactly what I'm saying. The last two conversations that we have had, if you ask yourself before making every film, will it be as good as your last best one? Will it stop you from experimenting and maybe making a film which could be better than that?
See, the difference is not so much about whether to make it bigger or better. The mindset of Satya is something different. See, even if I made a film, like what I mentioned, the tremendous respect and a compassion I had for the characters, I don't believe I had that in any other film, maybe including Sarkar and Company. When I saw it again yesterday after seeing Satya. I didn't feel the same about Company, partly because Satya is not really a gangster story. It's about people. It's about human beings and the relationships, where the underworld played a very small role in the back. Company was very much in upfront. Now I know more about the underworld than when I made Company. So I felt it very fake now when I see it.
Or something that people perceive it is, but not what it actually is.
When I see Sarkar, I felt sometimes it is a little too over dramatic. And I miss the kind of a subtlety of a Godfather because it is taken from there, you know. So things like that, yeah.
In your filmology, if I have to ask which film that you saw, now we have the answer for Satya, that you felt not exactly embarrassed, but felt like, okay, this is something I could have not made, or I'm not proud of it, or not happy with it. Is there any film that you would want to go back and say like,
no,
not
I
me?
won't say that because see, I feel I take every decision of mine as an experience, good, bad, ugly, because they will eventually shape up the way you think. I mean, if you don't make bad decisions, I don't think you'll know what a good decision is to start with, you know. So I definitely wouldn't regret, also for one more reason, because every decision you make, but there will be something which will be adding to you and something subtracting. For example, when Sanjay Dutt was arrested in the 93 blast case, I was making a film called Nayak at that time. In between he got arrested, you know. And when you're waiting for him to come out, I made a kind of action comedy called Anaganagao Kroju in Telugu, which became a super hit. You know, because that became a big hit, when Sanjay Dutt came out, we thought instead of making a political film, let's make an action comedy like that. And I made Daud, which didn't work. So if Anaganagao Kroju didn't work, I wouldn't have made Daud because it worked.
Got it.
Then what I did, Nayak was shelved. that film.
And the title was Nayak?
It was Nayak.
Oh, lovely.
That was Shell. And years later, I again made it as Sarkar. So Nayak was actually Sarkar.
And you were making it with Sanju sir?
Sanjay was playing Abhishek's role and Nasiruddin Shah was playing Amitabh Bachchan's role. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Wow.
So now, because of Nayak didn't make and Sarkar came.
True.
If I made Nayak, irrespective of how it worked, I wouldn't have ever made Sarkar. Yeah.
Got it. So the last question, I think it's a big debate, not about today, tomorrow, but it's been for a last decade. I always feel the so-called pan-India term has been used and abused now because we've branded it. But there have always been films that we've spoken about which were inspired from Telugu, made in Hindi. Maniso made films which he made in 2 languages. There were films which were dubbed. It has been happening since forever. I have seen Hindustani in a theatre. We knew Kamal Hassan sir as Hindi audience. We knew Rajinikanth sir. But now I think with the advent of social media, everything needs to be boxed or branded. So after Baahubali, people are feeling now it's Indian films, pan-India films and everything. There is also a very strong conversation about Hindi films are not doing well. South films are doing well. When you talk to some people in Telugu, they say, yeah, but it's not been that great. Also, there have been a lot of equally number of films not working there also. It's always been that. What do you feel about this entire thing? Has anything changed or is just more people are talking about it?
Fundamentally, we have this habit of wanting to label something. What would be the so-called pan-world films, suppose? Pan-world films are English films where they release everywhere. And that is mainly because of the language. It's a common language in many of the countries. Now, then there was a season, I didn't know what they used to call at that time, like monsoon wedding and all that. They used to call something,
parallel cinema or something?
Not parallel, something else was there. I forgot.
Not even art, not even indie.
Not indie.
There used to be,
there was some
like
term.
Bend It Like Beckham, Monsoon Wedding, all these films.
Correct. All of them were coming in one label.
Yes.
Where basically they never work in where they're made. They made their
yes.
in other places.
Yes.
There was some term I forgot. Yeah.
Yes.
So the point now, you see, we're starting with Rajamouli's like Baahubali, surprised everyone that an unknown Prabhas.
True.
Can become such a big hit, So which means that the content is good. They don't care.
Precisely.
And every star would have some beginning at some point of time or the other.
Correct.
Then the money it collected gives it the same thing. That shows you the range of a good film you make. It can actually collect this much. Now everyone will feel they're making a good film. That is one part. And then the second part is when you're pitching the project, talking about the finances also, this gives a bigger net. Let's do it in these many languages. Make it a pan-India film. And the subject matter sounds very good of every film if you're sitting in a room with 4 people talking. So, but the point is, Rajamouli, like when I say South films doing well, if Rajamouli was born in Gujarat, also would have made the same film. That's his sensibility.
So well
Nobody made Baahubali in South except Rajamouli when it came out, So it's not like coming from the culture of Telugu films, But we have this habit of trying to South se aa gaya. South se how many came, man?
True.
South, like someone else told you, South makes equal number of flops. It's only the best you see here. I don't think 80% of the films made in Hollywood release also in India.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you just look at the best of it and then you can't, Hollywood makes only good films. Yeah.
Correct.
So I think it's just a term, but at the end of the day, what is proved that irrespective of the actors and if it's made with that kind of a conviction, it can run everywhere. That's what it proved.
Yes.
Who would expect a Maharaj to work in China? Who would expect a Kantara to work in Bombay?
Even I think while the makers were making them, they wouldn't have
it basically
thought in their
broke the
wildest
myth
dreams.
of that. Yeah. See, the problem is for the big budget films. See, a film like Kantara you can make with conviction. I don't think you can make a big film with conviction because you're scared of it has to be liked by everyone.
It's also added pressure.
And the moment you think of people liking, you lose yourself and then you don't know what you're making.
Yeah. So true, sir. So true. I will just add this one thing that you said. I think pan-India films, or as you said, pan-world films, are even language agnostic. It is the emotion and the experience. Like when I see an Avatar, I'm going in for their experience and just want to enter that world, enjoy it, or a Jurassic Park, or all those films, even a Titanic for that matter. I'm not going because it's an English film that's worked. Similarly, what Baahubali gave, what Kantara gave,
Correct.
what Satya gave, all these films have given an experience that I want to do. It could be in any language. Thankfully, post-COVID, what has happened is people have gotten accustomed to watch films with subtitle. They are maybe more open to focus on the stories than the heroes. Otherwise, I think before COVID, it was always about iski film hai, we'll go in theaters. Otherwise, there was no option of OTT. So I think that has changed a bit.
I really don't think so. See, if you look at it, even in my teen days,
Ji.
Mechanized Gold used to run for 1 year.
Yes.
You know? And many films like James Bond or in action films or horror films, Exorcist ran for 100 days in Rajahmundry.
Absolutely.
In 1985, you know. So the point is, a good film reaches.
Irrespective of the language, irrespective of anything.
Correct. Anything
True.
or whatever. Good film here, in meaning which was so effective and it made people talk or whatever it is, you know.
Right.
So the point is, it's also very difficult. Who decides what is a good film? Somebody in charge might think this film won't work. Or somebody in charge will think this film will work. So we are making so many number of films, like products.
Absolutely.
Now, if there's a table and so many people make table, who knows which table who's buying and what cost the thing is being made?
And the truth is, no one knows.
So yeah. So the bottom line is, I think the alarming thing I feel here is when you don't know and when you have a big star and when you have someone with money, they'll want to cater to make it for everybody, assuming it will collect. See, eventually no film fails. It's a price which fails. At what cost you make?
True.
Everything else is an opinion. Individual likes it.
Correct.
Someone thinks it's fantastic. Someone thinks it's horrible.
Right.
That will happen even for super hits.
True.
But the amount of wastage of money in the name of wanting to make a pan-India film, I believe that's dangerous for the producer. But if you look at it another way, the good thing about money being lost in a film, I'll tell you. See, money never gets lost. It just changes pockets. See, if you're losing 20 crores in a film, let's say, the money you lost, but it went into others' pockets, like technicians, this and that.
Correct.
And you have 20 crores to lose because you have money.
Right.
So I think in a democratic system, it becomes a redistribution of wealth. So you will pay for
Never thought about it this way. Okay.
So I think super flop films actually contribute to the economy more than super hits. Because super hit films, the wealth goes into individuals' pockets. Super flop films, the wealth goes into many, many people.
Now we know why I called him a gangster mind when I did an introduction. But that is so true. I don't think anybody would have given it that perspective. And it is a perspective that's worth a conversation for sure. This is amazing. Genuinely the last one. With you, it always happens. Last, but this is the last one. Audiences, I have experience in my very limited things of trying to work in the North and the South both. I have seen the South audiences and the South makers. I'm saying North and South because we are having this conversation. The audiences are also very passionate about films. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you've also worked in both the industries. For them, watching a film over the weekend is not just a leisure activity. It is almost like as important as having food. Now, again, is it just because I've been meeting only the good people there and this is the perception, or it actually is? Over here in Hindi, watching a film is genuinely, if I don't have anything else better to do, I will watch a film. I am not dying if I'm not watching this film.
So I'll tell you the primary difference between the so-called South audience and North audience. Now, I don't think as people they're different. They're the same. The films are different. And why are the films different? See, in the height of Amitabh Bachchan era, I'm talking about the 70s and 80s, the South only used to copy Hindi films. Like Rajinikanth was making remakes of Bachchan.
Yeah.
Chiranjeevi, N.T. Ramarao making remakes of Bachchan. So they learned the craft from Hindi, from Manmohan Desai, from this one, you know. And at a point of time, when the music companies came, and there was an explosion of the music industry, all the music companies started funding films to have songs to promote their music. That is when suddenly the action genre got killed. And that happened around roughly in the same period as Amitabh Bachchan taking a very big sabbatical for 5 years or something. It didn't work, or something to that extent.
Yes.
Then the musicals like Maine Pyar Kiya, Sajan and all these things came in, and the Hindi industry forgot the mass masala films.
True.
But the South never changed. South always continued in the same
There was never
direction.
a period where they didn't make these.
They continued in the same direction. And all these mega heroes and slow motion shots and this and that. And which is the reason the South heroes are more worshipped by fan base. Because the characters and the stories are designed like that. For them to feel that emotion.
So isn't it surprising?
And then after that, the other group of directors which came some 15, 20 years back, they're very...
metro.
I wouldn't say metro, more exposed. They see foreign cinema.
Yes.
They talk in English, and most of them are in Bandra, this area. And their sensibilities are very different. Most of the South directors, if you said, I'm not going to name names, that they can't even speak English. They're very, very basic, and they're very, very rooted and connected. They will not talk intellectually.
Right.
They will not talk about cinema as whatever it is.
Right. It's not a wine and cheese conversation.
So they're more nearer to the so-called mass audience. They will feel the same way as most of the people, which I think is impossible for a Bollywood director to do that.
The current crop of.
It is not. It is not possible. Which is the reason I think the difference is there. I don't think anybody can make something like Pushpa 2 in Bollywood, not because they're not capable of it. They don't think like that. And see, I would, I don't want to name the producer. He's quite a big producer. He told someone I know when Pushpa 1 came, when he saw the film, he said North audience will puke on this guy's face about Bunny. Why did he say that? I don't think it's anything to do with Bunny. It's to do with the character. Because he likes a guy with six-pack and super good-looking and this, he gets
and
down
he defied
in the car.
all those,
The moment the character is like this, who the fuck wants to see a character like this on screen? So he must be having nightmares now after the Pushpa 1 and 2. Okay, So I think it is a sensibility difference in the film industry, Bollywood.
It's not the audience.
There.
It's not really the audience.
Because they were fed on the same study diet which was actually initiated by Amitabh Bachchan.
But so isn't it surprising? Good and bad is secondary, but that one genre has been existing for over 5 decades and is still running so strong. When we talk about the Amitabh Bachchan kind of cinema, it is a certain kind of genre.
I'll tell you that. I think when there's an interesting thing you said, people need it like a adrenaline rush, Now, if you like some kind of a chicken masala, that kind of a food or whatever, you don't mind with little bit changes here and there, you'll eat it every day. You will relish that because it's an emotion at the end of the taste bud or whatever, you will never get tired of chicken masala. All you need is a little changes here and there, which is what they do anyway.
In fact, if you change a lot, you won't like it.
Yeah, correct. That is absolutely right. Which is the reason I also feel stars should always be stars. They should never play characters. It's like this, if you like a person, you want him to be the same. If he keeps on changing every time you meet, I don't think you will disconnect.
Because you are in anticipation that, if this guy comes, he will do this.
Correct. So that is the point. Even if you change, you should still cater to the same emotion.
Emotion.
Bunny might have played a different character, but he's still fighting, he's still dancing, he's still doing heroic dialogue. That is not changing. So the change is just a little portrayal, the
situation,
way scenes are tweaked,
character, attitude.
But the template remains the same. There's a hero, there's a villain, there's a heroine, there's
It's actually so basic if you see. If you come down to see, it's actually very basic. It's not rocket science. It's actually very basic, and I think that's what the audiences also want.
And Bollywood, most of Bollywood, they're too much of a emphasis on whether the story is right or not. You know, they don't care. They only look at scenes. Most of South big directors, scene kya hai?
I remember this conversation between Sandeep sir and you. I was watching it even though
like
it was in Telugu.
For example, when
both of you said this.
One famous actor told me, you know, he said, I never listen to a story. My only question is, mera entry kya hai? What? Tell me my introduction scene. If he gets my introduction scene right, I think he has a sense to make rest of the film as good.
Wow.
I love the simplicity of it.
And the clarity. The clarity is very...
Uske baad, fuck it. After that, I don't want to know.
And that's the litmus test. If you crack this story, you will figure. Film, you will figure.
And like one famous director told me, sir, the audience don't want scenes. Sorry, they want scenes. इसलिए कि scenes में मजा आता है, story bore करता है इसे. And there's a lot of thought in it, if you really seriously take it.
No, because I heard what Sandeep sir and you mentioned, and you mentioned you had this discussion. And before that, one interview I saw of both of you, even though it was in Telugu, I was reading the subtitles. I always felt that there is nothing bigger than a story. I always felt that there is nothing bigger than a story because it's storytelling, it's cinema. And when both of you spoke, I also took back and thought for a moment what I take back. I take back moments. I don't take back the story.
I'll give you two examples. In earlier times, all the greatest hits of Amitabh Bachchan, you know, do you remember any story? You remember lines, you remember songs,
moments.
You remember moments here and there. I don't remember a single story of an Amitabh Bachchan film in the 70s and 80s. You know? Okay, there was those times. Let us say times are different now. Now I'll give you an example. You see the public reviews, not the other. Arey, acha, bahut aaya, bahut maza aa gaya. They never talk about a story, the public reviews.
So
they
true.
just talk in fun. Arey, Gana
Jabardast hai, dialogue acha tha.
That is the same Amitabh Bachchan crowd in 70s. Why did where did they change?
It's actually so simple if
So
you put
here
it
we are
that way.
talking about second act, third act, and this character graph, all that. These pseudo-intellectuals which are coming in most corporate companies, they are the guys who are responsible for Hindi industry not working. Yeah.
Lovely. On that note, sir, I mean, it's always lovely talking to you off camera, but for the first time, I think this was on camera, and thank you so much. I know you don't do it so often, but thank you so much for doing it, sir. Really means a lot for me individually and for all of us. Thank you, and I'll hope to see you very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.